Hello folks, John Nord. I'm going to show you today, I'm going to make some nickel silver pistol grips, and these are for a Kimber KDS9 pistol. It's kind of like the 1911, but it's a newer style, a smaller pistol. And these are the factory type grips that come on it. It's going to be kind of a challenge. I've never made these before, but you can see they're pretty thin. They only have one screw here that holds them on, and then they got a inset piece here in the back that kind of sits it down in a hole so it doesn't move around. They're tapered quite a bit on the front and all the way around. So I'm going to start out with some 3/16 solid nickel. I get this from Knife Supply, and I've already cut them pretty close to the pattern. I've got to cut a notch out right here. We of course got to drill the holes, but we'll do that later. And then a little notch up here. I'll do that with my scroll saw. I did all this on the bandsaw. And then I got to start filing on it. I've got to file this. You can see there's quite a difference. The thickest part of these is a .150. I've got this right now to a .175, and I've got to get that down. So anyway, that's what we're going to do next. We're going to cut these little spots out right here. Then we're going to take a hand file, and we're going to start filing back to our line. I cut it just a little over the line. We're going to make it all real nice, and then we're going to paint this with the blue Kim so we can see what we're doing, and we're going to mark lines where that taper starts and ends, and we're going to start filing that off, and we may do some of that with a grinder. So that's where we're at. Follow along. I'll try to show as much of this as I can. See y'all later. Okay, you can see what we've done. We've scribed the edge along the edges, same as these, and we filed it. We followed it all the way around to where it fits pretty good and all. Anyway, this is too thick. We got to take it down to that profile there. So we're going to sand this down on this surfacer. Some of these, like this, flapper disc, grinding wheel, all of that on a handheld grinder. And then we'll also be using files like this to shape up some of these ends. The idea is you want to get it exactly like this one. Okay, what we've done, we've taken a block of wood, we've flipped this, we're going to hold it here, try to take this surface down. Now you don't want to let it get too hot. Have you a jug of water to put in to cool it off. And just keep taking it down until you get it the thickness of this here. we've worked on it and we've got it down to this now. We've got it thinned down to the right thickness, and I believe the thickness on the end is the same. I think the thickness on the front end up here is about right. It matches up real good with the model. I've got a hole, I drilled a hole in here because I was having trouble trying to hold it. What I was doing holding it, grinding it and all this, was I was taking a block like this and I would put screws in here, and I'd put this on here. I'd put some blue tape under it, which I showed you earlier, I think. Anyway, I put screws in here and held it on here. And then I proceeded to surface this side. And once I got it down pretty good, I started surfacing it on this side. And I got it down to the right thickness along with my grinding disc and all. Then I started putting it on here, kind of like that. And I'd put a screw in here and I would start hitting this edge here with the grinding wheel first. Then I went to the cutoff wheel, kind of massaged it with that, then went to the flap wheel. And I also filed it some where I thought I was getting a little crooked. Then I turned it around, I screwed it down, did this edge, I screwed it down here and did this edge. And you just gotta make you some little jigs to be able to hold it and keep it not being so dangerous, for one thing, but also to do a good job. So this is pretty much the right grip now. What we'll do next is we got to get this one worked down. This is a lot heavier than this grip. This grip real light. What we're going to do also to this grip is, you can see on the back side of the model, it has a piece probably glued onto here because it's carbon fiber, I believe. But anyway, we're going to cut this piece out as an 18 gauge nickel, and we will solder that in the same place as this one has on the back here. Before we do that, I'm going to drill some holes down in here underneath where it will be, and I'm going to drill them deep enough to not come out the other side, of course, and to keep it still at least 18 gauge thickness, but to take some more weight out of it. Then I'll put that piece on there, and that will cover all those holes up. And then once we get that done and we get this drill, we get some of that done, we'll also take this hole. This is just a pilot hole. We have to enlarge that hole to looks like 0.150, and that hole will have to be bored out to that. And then you can see there's a ledge around that hole on both sides. That's where your screw would sit down in there. And there's probably, I don't have the gun, the customer has the gun, but there's probably a boss right there that fits up in there to hold this more steady. And we will take this measures 0.270, the countersink, but we're going to use a 1/4 inch bit. We're going to drill it with and we're going to cut the tip off that bit, kind of like a mill bit, and we're going to, so it will cut flat instead of tapered, and we'll mill that down there and that on our drill press. And then we may take, I've had better luck than drilling the exact size. I've had better luck taking a little grinding bit, one of my little diamond carbide, one of my little carbide dentist type bits, and go around this just real easily until I get it the exact size I want it. And I'll do that. And then what we would do is we would get with the customer and we would make a test fit of these grips on his or her gun before we go doing all the engraving and everything. That way, if we need to change something a little bit or it don't fit at all, we haven't lost a lot of work. So that's what we would do in the next process. So anyway, I know I haven't showed you how I ground all these, but that would be difficult and a time-consuming thing. I'm just showing you the tools I'm using and how I went about doing it. I used the blue die-kiln on it like this, and I used the dividers to mark my lines according to how the model was, and then just went with I also used this on the sides of the grip and scribed it here after bluing this. I scribed it here, that way I knew how far to take it down to. So that kind of stuff is just preparation, and pay attention to detail. Don't take too much out. You can always take a little more off, but you can't put back. So anyway, we'll go on from here and I'll show you some more of how we're going to do this. Okay, what we've done is we've got our grips finished out here the way I wanted them as far as filing and shaping. We're back in the studio. I drilled a .150 hole. These were originally 1/8 inch pilot holes. I drilled a .150 hole through here, which is the size of our model grips. And then I took a 1/4 inch bit and I drilled down just a little bit, about the same depth as the countersink on our model grip. And of course it's a tapered hole. I was going to mill it down flat, but my mill bit wasn't working real well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a grinder carbide bit with my orbital, and I'm going to start cutting this down flat, and that way that I can get the right depth, the exact diameter, and our boss will fit just right when we put the grip down on the gun. Also up here, the head of the screw will be flush with our grip. So that's what I'm going to do next. I will also make sure, because there might be just a hair difference between the thickness of this grip and the thickness of this grip. So I want to make sure that I have the right depth on these countersinks. That's real important. So I'm going to get with doing that. I'm going to, like I say, going to use the orbital, and I'm going to use I'm going to start off with a little carbide bit. I got these from a dentist, and he just throws them away. So they work real good for this. You can see how tiny they are, and I'll put that in my orbital, and we will just sit here and slowly cut this down. That's the way I prefer to do it. I don't want to mess these up. I've got some working time in them. And then I'll show you the next step after that. Okay, I wanted to show you, this is the KDS9c, and you can see this inset right here below the grip. The grip has a raised pad on the bottom of it, and that raised pad has to click down in that shallow spot. That's what holds the grip in place with just one screw. So we have to transfer that design to our grip. And I've got the grip fitting perfect on the gun. I've got the screw hole done just right, and everything, I'm satisfied with everything on it. But now I have to get that pad on the back side of my grip. So what I do is that pad that's back here is exactly the width of 18 gauge. So I'm going to cut out 2 of the pads out of 18 gauge nickel, and then I have to carefully apply them in the right spot here. And what we'll probably do is we'll probably drill little holes under here and under the pad, and we'll epoxy it with jeweler's epoxy into place. I thought about soldering it, but if I get off just a little bit, soldering is harder to correct. With the glue, we can heat it up and get it off. The glue works fine for, it's the same type glue that they use to put knife handles on, and this should work fine with this. And once it's sandwiched in there, there's no chance of it coming loose. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to cut these out, and then I'm going to carefully fit them into this hollowed out spot in the gun to make sure they fit perfectly, because you can see there's some little rubber deals here that the grip goes up against, and I'm going to carefully fix those. You have to be careful with these little rubber grips. They do come out and you can lose them real easily, so you got to be careful with those. Okay, I'm going to show you what step I'm on now. I got these countersinks cut in. You can see we countersunk it there and countersunk it here in the exact spot it should be. And our screw fits completely flush with the grip. The grip fits the gun good, but we don't have the inset pad in place yet. I'm going to show you here on the other side. We cut these out earlier. I showed you with the 18 gauge. And if you're making these, what I would do is cut them just a hair big, and then you could sit there and you can sand around the edges until they fit into the pocket just right. But you can see how they fit. They're nice and tight. So the trick now is to get the other grip, or both grips actually, down on here to where we know where that pad is located on this grip before we apply it to the back side of the grip. We have to have that perfect for this grip to fit this gun. So what I'm thinking of doing is, first of all, I'm thinking about trying to measure off of where the edge of this is and all, back to the edge of my pad, and then scribing that place onto the grip, and then maybe use some contact cement to verify that that is in the exact location that it needs to be. Try to apply the grip, see if it's in the right spot. If it is, scribe around this perfectly, then drill my little holes in both sides and apply the epoxy and glue it down. Let that dry and check the fit. If it doesn't, with the epoxy you can heat the grip up, release it, clean it all up again, and try again. With solder, it's a lot harder deal. So that's what I'm going to try next. We're going to try to put some put this down, and we're going to mark where we need to be and where that pad needs to be, and get it adhered with just some contact so we can try it. So bear with me, and I'll show you how that's going to work out. Okay, let me explain what we've done here. We've fitted these to our grips, and we test fit them with contact cement. We put them on here with contact cement, and then we put them in the gun to see if they would fit properly, and they do. So before I took them off, I marked a marker line around them. Then I took my square graver with my engraving, and I cut a line on top of that black marker. So I had a permanent mark of where this goes on the grip. I did the same with that grip, and you can see the line around there. So now I know exactly where to line this up on there with the epoxy on it. I roughed this up, the back side that goes down. I drilled some little pit holes, some little holes in it, not all the way through, just some dimples. I drilled some bigger dimples in this part. That will allow more surface of the glue to stick. If you don't have those in there, when you clamp it together, all your glue pretty much gets squoze out. This way you'll have glue in there. So what we're going to do next is we're going to mix up some 330 epoxy, and we're going to glue these on. We're going to take the clamp it down, and let it set overnight, and then we'll test fit them again tomorrow to make sure everything's correct. If not, we would have to heat that epoxy up, take them back off, and do it again. But hopefully with the marks and everything, we'll have it just right on. So we're going to do that next. Stay with me. You want to make sure this is mixed real well. And I usually slide it instead of picking up and stirring, because it keeps a lot of the air bubbles out of it. It will still get some air bubbles. Okay, I believe we're ready. Now you don't want to put a whole lot. You want to cover it, but anything that's not in these holes is going to get squoze out. And then you'll have it all over the back of your grip. And although you can clean that up, it's a pain. Okay, we got that covered. I believe this is a 15-minute set, so you got a little time to make sure you're okay. You definitely want to keep it away from that hole, or you'll have to be going back and regrinding it. Put a clamp there. The clamp right there. I double check, make sure I got my lines lined up. Okay, we have that one in place. Got our clamps all on there. We'll do the next one. Okay folks, we've got the grips, the pad on the back of the grips glued in place. And got them cleaned up. They're not going anywhere. You can see how that works. And we're ready to see if they fit on the gun. I put this side on. Fits real nice, real clean. And you can see how this is. It goes on there, fits down real nice. Put the screw in this side and make sure all your buttons clear everything when you use it. And the only thing left now is to transfer a pattern on here. And I show on my channel a real good method of transferring a panel onto something like this, and so you can cut and engrave it. So check that out. I also show some of the designing techniques I use in my design software. But if you don't have none of that, you can draw your design right on the grip and with a marker and start cutting it in there. I'm going to put a border around this, and then I'm going to put a badge type circle star on it and some cactus and all. And I'll have a picture of the finished engraved gun when at the end of the video. But anyway, that concludes the video on this. I just wanted to show you how you go about making a custom grip for this type of pistol with the unique inset pad on the back and all that. You want to make sure your screws are right flush with the top or a hair below so they don't stick up. And that's just a matter of getting that countersink right. So, hey, thanks for tuning in. Like I say, I have 100 and something videos on my channel. They cover transfers of designs, engraving, drawing, some of that stuff that you can finish some grips out like that any way you want to. I just wanted to show you here how to fabricate this type of grip, and I hope I helped somebody on that. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. Catch you next time.